But to Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10. So it is Mother's Day. And my mother's not here today. It's kind of sad, actually, but I'll see her on Tuesday. But in Sunday school, we looked at three mothers in the Bible. We looked at the mother of Moses, Jochebed, the mother of Samuel, Hannah, and the mother of Jesus, Mary. And just looked at their life, how they showed their faithfulness, their faith to the Lord, faithfulness in their own lives, and just as a great example to their families. Well, how do we see that? How do we break down what makes this virtuous woman? And we see this in Proverbs 31. So the 3 points we're going to go over today, we're going to look at the character of this virtuous woman, the labor of this woman, and the praise this woman gets. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us our mothers, that they've been able to be an example to us in our lives. Be with us as we look into your word and read what you have showed us what makes a virtuous woman who is a jewel to her household, a pillar to stand upon, and a helpmeet and a guide that helps her family out. Thank you so much for everything, Lord. In your name I pray. Amen. All right, so we read through this already, but verses 10 through 12, let's read these again. It says, "Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain." So this woman, so first of all, the Lord, they're giving us this rundown. This is what a virtuous woman looks like. In the eyes of the Lord, this is the characteristics that this woman shows. So she is excellent. Verse 10, I'm sorry. Her worth is above rubies. She is her worth is overwhelming. She shows strength, ability, efficiency, wealth, and valor in her life. It goes through all these things. Her husband safely trusts her. Being able to go to work and not have to worry about your wife. You trust her. She's got it under control. She knows what she's doing. She's going to be faithful to you, faithful to the Lord. When I go to work every day, I don't have to worry about Deanne. I don't have to worry if she's running off or taking care of Titus. I know she does. She's faithful. She's shown herself to be faithful. The phrase here, her worth is far above rubies, this is a priceless person. The wealth that you can have of a faithful wife who is excellent in all these things she does. Verse 12, it says, "She does him good and not evil all the days of her life." Well, that's good, right? You want a wife who does good and doesn't do you evil. That kind of defeats the purpose of the whole thing. But in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, I'll read that really quick. You don't have to turn there. But kind of going off this, it says, "Husbands, likewise dwell with them," talking about their wives, "with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered." And we've gone over this before. We know talking about the weaker vessel, not talking about necessarily physical, but the value and the worth that the wife has. I remember, it's funny looking back, me and Deanne, we've only been married 4 years, so compared to many, not very long. But when we were dating, we were very young and naive, and it's going to be great. And when we get married, and it's just going to be all happy and rainbows and sunshine. And it's not, and you know that. It's not always happiness and rainbows and sunshine, but the growing together, the worth that is shown there between you and your spouse. On days when she has to go somewhere and I have to watch the house and have to watch Titus, her worth is far above rubies. I am terrible at that, especially diapers. I am the worst at diapers. But just seeing how much she does, and I'm going to work every day. She's staying at home, but she's more worn out than I am when I get home. And I think, well, why? But then those days when I have to do everything, I understand why. There's a lot of laundry in our household, a lot of laundry. And Titus doesn't have off buttons. He just goes all the time, and he does not nap very often. And we try to, but he doesn't. And just putting up with all of that all day, day in, day out. And she doesn't get a paycheck for that, by the way. We went over this in Sunday school, that Moses' mom was actually paid to raise him. How nice would that have been, honestly, if I got a paycheck for, hey, good job, this is your job. But no, we don't get that. That is what the Lord has entrusted us, this motherhood, that she is with him all the time. And she does amazing. And I'm going to use her as my example most of this sermon, because I know her the best. But with my mother, man, growing up, me and Brian were a handful, honestly. We would go run off and do things, and Brian more than me. I was actually a pretty good kid. But Mom had to put up so much, and then with Allison, all the girl stuff going on with that. And she put up all of that with us and raised us in a great way, and showing the strength and ability and efficiency and wealth. And she would lose her temper sometimes, and it was nightmarish, sometimes when she would get onto us. But she taught us the right way. And when you see all this stuff that the virtuous woman, this wife, the mother, this person goes through, you see that value is just when you compare it, when you see a mother who does not do these things. We see that, and immediately it's, oh, this is detrimental. This is terrible. These things, the children are not being raised. Nothing's being taken care of. You see the worth of the mother who does do these things, and it's amazing. Verse 11, she's faithful, trustworthy. Nothing beats just being able to trust your spouse. It's an amazing thing. I know the Titus is going to be taken care of. I know she'll be faithful. I'm going to be faithful to her. That interchange between us and our walk together with the walk with the Lord is amazing. And you see people that don't have that faithfulness. They're worried all the time about their spouse or what's going on. They become a nervous wreck. And how could you live like that? Like, the worth of this faithful, virtuous woman is amazing. Looking down, she's righteous. In 2 Corinthians, turn with me, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9. It says, if I can get there. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9. It says, therefore we make it our aim, whether present or absent, to be well-pleasing to him. So just the righteousness that we live in our lives all the time. Verse 10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. The righteousness that this virtuous woman shows in her life is an example to her children. Obviously, the fathers are to have the same example as well, but the mothers are with that child all the time, and kids see everything. Titus will mimic things I don't even know he was in the room, and he'll do it, and he mimics all the stuff, and they're little sponges, and you don't realize that until you get one. I mean, growing up, I thought, yeah, well, my child, we'll teach them, and they'll learn when they're watching us. No, they learn all the time. All the time they learn, and showing this righteousness in our life, our walk with the Lord must be there for his walk with the Lord to be there. Because the whole, do what I say, not as I do thing, that doesn't work with children at all. That's not even a concept. They're going to see what you're doing. Talking will come later, but they want to see how you're living your life and how you're doing things. So this woman, her character, excellent, trustworthy, righteous. What is the labor of this woman? What does she actually do? These are things that she shows in her life, but what does she do? So verse 13. It says, she seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is diligent, is what this means. She's diligent with her hands. She's not slothful. It doesn't necessarily mean, she makes clothing, and that's good. No, she's diligent at her work, what she do, whatever she's doing. If she's a career woman, she's diligent at what she's doing. She's creative. Lost my spot. Verse 14, she is like the merchant ship, brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is not yet night and provides food for her household. It's a diligency thing. In the ancient world, around the time this was written, a woman ran all the ins and outs of the home. The husband would be out doing whatever he was doing, whatever his career was, but the wife ran that home. Food that was in that house, she got it. If servants had to go out and repairs needed to be made, she was in charge of it. She ran that household. And so she had to be diligent for the family to prosper and to have food on the table and all this stuff. And not much has changed. I mean, in our household now, because there will be 8 of us living together for a little while of time, we have a thing where each person cooks on a different day of the week. That way Mom is not trying to cook for 8 people every single day and have a nervous breakdown and kill us all at the dinner table, because that's going to happen eventually. So each of us have to cook a different day, which is really rough for me, because even though I work in a kitchen, I don't cook. Chick-fil-A, you just press buttons and stuff, and things cook themselves. I don't really have to do much cooking there. So this has been fun for me, and my wife for her to come alongside and help me to cook. But the diligency of this woman who's running her household, she knows what she has, she knows how to take care of everything, and she's on top of it. Just on top of it is the best way to put it. But the creativity of this, she perceives that her merchandise is good and her lamp does not go out by night. She doesn't just do the same thing over and over again. She knows how to take care of problems. She knows how to adapt with the situations with this. She's selfless. Because how many of you ladies like to get up at the crack of dawn to do these things if it was just you? Would you do that? No. I mean, I get up at 4 in the morning, but that's because I'm paid by a company to do so. I do not do it under my own volition. This is a selfless thing for her family, that she would get up and do all of this. Verse 19, she stretches out her hand to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. Again, not just that she's diligent, but when work is being done, she oversees it and sees it out to be done right. When we were growing up, Mom would have us clean our rooms all the time. And me and Brian were awful at cleaning our rooms. And it was terrible. And I'm still not good at it. Deanne gets on to me now about it. But Mom would come and we wouldn't just go, okay, Mom, the room's clean. She wouldn't just go, okay. No, what would she do? She'd come and check it. She'd check our room. And usually it was round 3 of our room cleaning, we'd be done finally, because pushing everything in the closet doesn't work. And I still don't get the whole making your bed before you sleep in it. I don't understand that at all. Deanne does that. We make our bed before we go to bed. I'm like, I'm going to destroy these blankets in about 5 minutes. I don't understand the process of this, but virtuous woman. We're going to do what she says. So selfless. Verse 21, she is not afraid of snow for her household. This is a Michigan verse. And all her household is clothed with scarlet. So what this means is when problems come, she's not just, oh, I don't know what to do. She knows how to take care of it. She knows how to handle this. Her house is clothed with scarlet. They're taken care of. She takes care of it. These are the labors that this virtuous woman goes through. You don't just get to sit on the sidelines and point and be like, do this, do this, do this. No, the mothers are in there. They're in there taking care of everything, doing what needs to be done. And all of these, again, are going to bounce right back to verse 10, that her worth is more than rubies. Because you cannot pay for that work. That's dedication and diligence, and it's amazing. Verse 28, so we get into the praise of this woman. What is her praise? Verse 28. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel at them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. When your spouse exhibits these characteristics they're going to last forever. This is what you look at, because I love my wife and she's gorgeous, but her heart is much more beautiful than anything else. Same with my mother. These are characteristics that will always be shown out, no matter what is going on. These things that will pass away, these skin-deep things that we look at, that's not what builds a family. That's not what builds the household. It's these virtues and characteristics that is shown by this virtuous woman, by the mother who is a helpmeet to the father, but is the pillar of how that house revolves. And it's amazing to see, because in the Bible, the father's the head of the home, but that mother who's that helpmeet, they say, the father's the head, but the wife is the neck. She can turn the head any way she wants it to go. She's right behind him, helping him the whole way, doing that. I'm a wreck if I don't have Deanne in my life. I'm just explain that. She'll go out of town sometimes to help my in-laws with stuff down in Kentucky, and she'll be gone for a week or two. And I think, all right, so she's going to be gone. I have the whole house to myself. I'm going to do these things. And most of my days, I come home from work and I lay in bed with a bag of chips, and I do nothing. I do nothing at all. And it hit me the third day she was gone, the first time she did this, and I'm like, if I'm not married, I have to go home and live with my family again. I can't live on my own because I will destroy my life. I will just lay in bed all day. I have no motivation to do anything. And she keeps me going the whole time. And reminds me, if I'm not being that leader that I need to be in the house, that needs to happen. She's right there behind me. She's not going to just let us just devolve into something if I'm not doing my job as being the spiritual leader for the household. She's going to be right there behind me, holding me to it. And that is, and we got to have that. Oh, we have to have that. We're useless without that, because motivation is great when you have someone behind it, but self-motivating is very hard. And God knew that. Think if Adam was given the task of naming every animal in the garden without someone behind him to motivate, you think it would have gotten done? No, I don't think so. He would have gotten to aardvark, and everything else would have been numbers after that. It would have been over. But Eve was right behind him. No, you got to name all those. We're in the seas. Let's keep going. And so that virtuous woman who's right there behind, pushing ahead, keeping everything on track, it's amazing. Her children rise and called her blessed. Her children see her worth as well. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel at them all. The praises that are heaped upon these virtues, and these might not be praises we necessarily physically see, but these are the praises that the Lord extols on that diligent woman, that woman who works hard, does what needs to be done, especially the single mothers that are there. They're trying to take care of their children, trying to work a job, trying to hold all this stuff down. And the Lord sees, and there's examples of that in the Bible as well, and the Lord blesses that. That is, I can't even imagine how hard that would be. I have no example to pull from of how hard that would be. But verse 31, give her the fruits of her hands and let her own works praise her in the gates. The term gates is used a lot in the Bible, and that usually means the courts. When you hear the gate of the king, it's the courts of the king, or the assemblies of the people in these areas. She doesn't have to go in and boast, oh, look what I do all these great things. No, her works speak for her, and they speak about her in the assemblies. People know who she is, what she does. They know her virtues and her qualities, and they'll speak about it. And she does not have to say anything for herself, but what she does. These things are hard. These are hard things. I mean, they sound amazing, right? Oh yeah, I want the righteousness and the diligence and all these things. But we have to work at them. And these are things that this virtuous woman, this example we're given, she works at, she does them. Are we perfect all the time? Absolutely not. Never perfect. But we have to keep that fellowship with the Lord. When we stumble, we rise back up. We ask the forgiveness of the Lord, and we get right back into the Word, right back into our fellowship with Him. Because without fellowship with Him, when we are distant from God, these things do not appear in our lives at all. We try to. We try that self-righteousness. We know what's good. We know what we're supposed to do. But when we do it under our own power and our own strength and our own righteousness, we fall flat every single time. We have to keep that link open with the Lord, that fellowship with Him tight. Because if this virtuous woman's going to be diligent and going to get up at the crack of dawn and going to take care of all these things, she's got to have her priorities straight. And to have her priorities straight, she's got to be in a good fellowship with the Lord, because He keeps our priorities where they need to be. It'd be very easy to just be like, I want to sleep longer, even though I know I have to do these things. But the Lord shows us, no, it's not about you. There's other things you have to take care of. And this goes with all of our lives, everything we do. These principles don't just apply to the virtuous woman, but they apply to everything that we do. When I go to work, I need to be diligent. I need to show that righteousness. I need to be excellent in what I do. I need to have this value and this worth that this woman has. I want to exhibit that in my life. And we have to remember this. And it's easy to skim over it and be like, well, that's for the virtuous woman. That's great. But no, these are things that when we extol these in our lives, that praise and that being talked in the gates, that happens in all these circumstances. It's amazing when you go to a job and you do your job and you just do it well, how blown away people are. Oh my goodness, he's diligent. He comes in time. He does his job, and he doesn't cause problems. When we show these, the world is just blown away from it. And the Lord is saying, yes, this is what you need to do. These are what a virtuous person does in their lives. These are the characteristics. It's not just, hey, I'm a good person, I do good things, but the labor that comes from the characteristics in our life, it's so important. And in the Lord labors as well. He gives us our own, Jesus, studying through Jesus, His ministry on earth. Yes, He was God, His characteristics were perfect, but He labored as well. He sweat, He worked hard, He did these things, and He was praised for it. He was also being Christ, they crucified him as well. But those who saw for what he was and what he was doing, praises. And how much more when we do what the Lord would have us to do. Yes, we get our earthly rewards and our earthly praises, and that's great, but our real treasures, what? Are in heaven, where moth will not destroy, thieves will not break in and steal. That's really where these rewards for this diligence and this virtue come about. We may not see any of this. You may have worked your whole life, you've been virtuous and diligent in your family, not seen any praise, any reward, but you will, because your Father in heaven always sees, and he is faithful and just to reward those. It's amazing, looking back at my life, growing up, maturing, having a family, seeing and I've heard the virtuous woman stuff before, and I was young, and I was like, oh, those are nice, those are great. But growing up and having a family and actually seeing that put into action, the practical application of the virtue, is amazing. And I can fully attest to the worth more than rubies. It's a priceless thing to have a spouse and a mother and a wife who will do these things and extol the virtues and the labors and receive the praise that this virtuous woman does. And again, like, we go through our life, and it's hard. It's hard to do these things. It's hard to get up with grace when your child will not eat what you have made for them to eat, and you force them to eat it, and they will not do it. And I think back of when I would sit at the table all night long and not eat my food. Mom would not let me get up from the table. I would literally sit at the table for hours, literally hours, and not eat. And then I would go to bed. And I'm getting that back now with little man here. But the patience is not always there, and the grace of doing things is not always there, which again is why, going back, relying on the Lord to do these things, to help us do these things, is what we have to do. We can't do this on our own. We can't do it under our strength. We would break under our own frailty of this. But the Lord is saying, I'm there. This is in Proverbs. This is what I need you to do. But the Lord is always there to help us do what we need to do. We always can do what the Lord says. He gives us that strength through him to do it. And so as we go out, it's Mother's Day. So just thank your moms. Thank your mothers. If you are a mother, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to call my mom after this. And just the selfless attitude. But those of you who are moms or are not moms, just remember the virtue. Remember these things that we need to do. But remember who we rely on to allow us to do these things. It's Christ who gives us the strength to do the virtues and to show our lives the way that we need to. All right. Not very long today. A few announcements. I'm going to pray and we'll be dismissed. I'll go over the announcements. Moms, remember, we have the flowers out on the welcome center right out here. Please grab it. I believe they're tulips. I don't know my flowers very well, but they look like tulips, and they look pretty, so we got them. They're Horrocks tulips. They're very pretty. So y'all get one of those. Just a couple of things coming up. The Gappers are on May 15th. We'll be meeting at 11:30 a.m. Bring a dish that you would like to make or eat or both, is what the bulletin here says. Also, we're collecting bottles and cans to raise money for the Teen Impact Ministry. On top of that, also, there are baked goods in the back for the teens. They've got little prices on them, or donations, or however you want to do it. But yeah, there's baked goods back there for the teens, which we've kind of talked about going to the Worldview camp they're trying to go to. But again, we are collecting bottles and cans for them. Vision Sunday, on Sunday, June 3rd, we will be looking to the past year to see how God has blessed us, and we will look at the upcoming year to see what God will do. We're going to have a dinner following the morning worship service. This is June 3rd, again. Be in prayer as we step out in faith for 2018 and 2019. So be in prayer for that. Lord's blessed us a lot this year. We're super excited to see what he's going to have for us coming up. All right, well, thank you all so much for coming. Let me pray. We will be dismissed. Have a great day. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for, again, showing us what we need to do in our lives. We know that we need to be righteous and do these things, but how do we do it? And you show us in your word what we need to do, what the steps look like. Thank you for that, Lord. Be with us as we go out. Just help us be able to give praise to our mothers, bless them, give them a good day today. Thank them so much for everything that they've done. And help us in our lives, those of us who are not mothers, to use the example of the virtuous woman and show those virtues in our lives that we may also bless you and be praised as well. In your name I pray. Amen.